Coming up on Cartoon Network.
More The Garfield Show.
Coming up next, more
Of the bestest best friends.
on Cartoon Network's 20th birthday party.
Coming up next, anew The Amazing World of Gumball. Later, a new Clarence on Cartoon Network.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
Ben 10.
coming up on Cartoon Network.
Next.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
A new Ben 10 Omniverse.
coming up next
Back-to-back episodes of Beyblade, Shogun Steel.
on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, more Adventure Time. Later, a new regular show on Cartoon Network.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
More regular show.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
A new The Amazing World of Gumball.
later,
Adventure Time.
Coming up next, more of The Amazing World of Gumball. Later, regular show on Cartoon Network.
coming up next
A new Ben 10 Omniverse.
on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, Steven Universe. Later, The Amazing World of Gumball on Cartoon Network.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, the Foster's Good Wilt Hunting Special. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
More Johnny Test.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
Regular show.
Coming up next, more Teen Titans Go. Later, a new The Amazing World of Gumball on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, more Teen Titans Go. Later, Clarence on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, more Adventure Time. Later, regular show on Cartoon Network.
Hey, up next on Cartoon Network, the series premiere of Annoying Orange. Later, a new man. Orange, you excited?
coming up next,
Steven Universe meets Uncle Grandpa.
later
Teen Titans Go.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
A new man.
coming up next
More Ed, Edd and Eddy.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
Total Drama World Tour.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
A sneak peek of Annoying Orange.
later,
A new man.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
What's new, Scooby-Doo?
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
A new Adventure Time. Later,
a new regular show.
Coming up next, Steven Universe. Later, regular show on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, Clarence. Later, Adventure Time on Cartoon Network.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
a new regular show. Later,
a new man.
Coming up next, more Teen Titans Go. Later, The Amazing World of Gumball on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, the all-new Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu special event. Later, more of the Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu special event on Cartoon.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
more regular show.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
Coming up next, more Teen Titans Go. Later, a new Steven Universe on Cartoon Network.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, coming up next,
more Johnny Test
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
more Annoying Orange.
later,
a new man.
coming up next
Cartoon Network's Gift Time.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
More Codename Kids Next Door.
on Cartoon Network.
Next.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, the Camp Laszlo Where's Laszlo special.
Coming up next, Adventure Time. Later, regular show on Cartoon Network.
Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
coming up on Cartoon Network. Next,
Johnny Test.
coming up next
More of the marvelous misadventures of Flapjack.
on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, more of the Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu special event. Later, Clarence on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, more Steven Universe. Later, Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I saw work, got 20. Now that bitch wanna twerk, used to laugh at me. I'm still a thug, it's some rock star dreams. And she fell in love with my